BC, we're going to get into it, but you said something in our text threads that I think is very interesting, and that is the involvement of Klutch Sports and this entire thing, not just with the Ben Simmons situation, but just the NBA at large. And I want you to touch on that. But how do you think this thing is going to play out? Do you see Ben Simmons caving in? That's a lot of money to leave on the table. And do you think he's really willing to sit out the year to force this trade?
I mean, I personally don't think Ben Simmons cares about anything other than himself. But I honestly, at this point, I think this is less about him as a player because we know who and what he is. We know what he can do. We know what he can't do. We know what he won't do. But I do think this is an indictment on Rich Paul. And I think this is an indictment on Klutch Sports. And I think he's getting very bad advice. And I think that whole entire situation in my mind amounts to this bad representation. And I think, eventually it'll, once LeBron stops playing, it'll dissolve, just like Rock Nation Sports. It's a boutique shop. It's basically a fad. And the only real power that Rich Paul has is his relationship with LeBron James. That's it. You know what I'm saying? And that's how he attracts clients. That's how he, has guys on his roster that he can negotiate deals for. But I think this shows a lot of immaturity on both the part of the player and the agent, because when you know and you understand the type of reputation that your client has based on things on the court that he actually can control and he doesn't, you can't strong arm anybody. You can't strong arm the team he plays for. You can't strong arm whatever team you're trying to get him to, because they see it. You can't even sell them on on the fact that, if you put him in a better situation, he's going to become a different player when he's been the same player for 5 years doing the same thing. So if I'm a GM on that side, like why am I believing this? And that's on top of the fact that the Sixers are going to want to gut your team just to get rid of him. They want all types of assets and picks and everything like that. And it's just like, you can't negotiate from a position of no leverage. And they have absolutely no leverage at all. The Sixers don't have to do anything. And so I think this, to me, this situation right here just exposes the whole Klutch Sports and Rich Paul situation. Forget about dude. Like, it doesn't even really matter about him anymore. Wherever he goes, he's going to be the same player doing the same thing, because that's who he's been since he's been in high school. Like, he's not gonna, and then you gave the dude $75 million. However much they gave him, you gave him no incentive to improve. You gave him all this money knowing he was a fantastically flawed player. You created a monster. And now that he has this money, I think that's, like I've always said, I think that's what he was in it for anyway. I don't even really think he cares. I think he's got a Kyrie attitude, but just from a different perspective. I think Kyrie actually cares enough to stick to his conviction. I think Ben Simmons was just in it for the money. And he got it, so he good.
Yeah, it does set like a bad precedent going forward, because I just look at, when the next CBA comes up, I'm pretty sure there's going to be owners. It's like, hey, we can't have nothing like this again. Mm-hmm. You try and hold out, your contract is voided, and then you do whatever you want. But I think for Ben, it's just like it's a mentality thing. I mean, not wanting to face that heat, going back to Philly. I mean, it's going to be 10 times as worse, visiting Philly now for him. Like
he can't go back there.
No. I mean, but just think of like the animosity he's going to get, when he returns there for whatever team. I do expect him to get traded possibly before like the trade deadline next year. I think when those guys who signed extensions like this summer, when they're eligible to be traded, like right around, I think December 13th or 15th, right, that's when you'll start to see like other teams possibly biting. But I just look at what's the best situation for him. If you're Philly, I want somebody at least of equal talent. And if you look across the board, even looking at Ben Simmons' flaws, you look at what he is, one of the best defenders in the league, like in transition, one of like the most unstoppable forces in transitions. Like half court needs some work, but like when you look at just the talent level, he's a 3-time All-Star. Like, who do you outside of Damian Lillard, like where do you find equal value to that? You can't bring on 21, 23-year-olds on that roster. Like you need somebody that's pretty much an all-star caliber player, an elite all-star caliber player, and somebody that's can at least put your team, if not push it over the top to where Ben Simmons will have them at currently, at least of equal footing, so you don't lose anything. But I mean, this situation does look bad on, both player and agency, because if I'm pretty sure from Klutch standpoint, you go to Ben like, hey, what do you want to do? I don't want to go back there. Like you try and empower that, but like the PR behind it is so bad. And then you got to bring this guy into a new situation. Like, how is that organization going to look at him now? Like when things go bad. So it's really tough because, if he does, even if I'm a GM of another team, like I'm questioning this dude's mentality. It's like, yo, if things get tough here, is this guy can I count on this guy? And we're paying him all this money. So it's just a very odd situation.